the 19th of June 2019. Again, I would ask the board members that were present at that meeting to indicate whether they approve those minutes, either by raising the hand in Teams or by unmuting and saying yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yep, that's all true. And the final bit from me is the formal adoption of the annual report and annual accounts for 2019 and 2020. Again, I would ask the same of the board members present if they are happy to formally adopt. I can see Jeff's already in there. Thank you, Jeff, and Dan.
Yes.
So, yes, I'm getting lots of positives. Thank you all very much. So the annual report and accounts are formally adopted for 2019 to 2020. There's a fourth bit of business which Claire is going to introduce. Claire?
Thank you, Linda. Hello, I'm Claire Hawkins and I'm very privileged to be the Chief Executive here at Hertfordshire Community NHS Trust. So an additional item of business that we need to note as a board, and that is to extend our congratulations to Dr. Linda Sheridan, our new substantive chair for HCT. Linda's been a member of our trust board since 2013 and took on the role as interim chair in January this year. And Linda has been a phenomenal support to us all as we've been working through our response to the pandemic. So we're absolutely delighted that you have been appointed substantively until October 21, and congratulations from me and all of the board.
Thank you, Claire. And I am equally delighted and incredibly proud to be the chair of this wonderful trust, which has as its vision that we should be delivering outstanding services and in doing so ensuring that we are serving healthier communities across Hertfordshire. We pride ourselves on our values. We revised our strategy last year and the values which we have adopted are that we should be innovative, caring and agile. There was some interesting discussion among staff when we brought those in, and I rather loved the fact that the staff wanted us to put caring first for obvious reasons, because that's what they believe is the value they feel strongest about. But we did point out to them that if you then put that down and put the initials after it, we'd be the CIA, and we thought it would be better to be an ICA. So we are innovative, caring and agile, and I think we will talk more about that as we move on. We are the principal provider of community-based healthcare services for the people of Hertfordshire. Our services serve the people of Hertfordshire from the cradle to the grave, and again we're proud to be the providers of those services. We care for babies, our health visitors are in with supporting young families, and we provide end-of-life care both in people's homes and in our community hospitals, as well as an awful lot of other care in between times. We were revisited by the Care Quality Commission in February and March this year. They completed their visit at the end of the first week of March, just as the Trust was furiously preparing for the COVID pandemic. But in spite of the distractions that were around at the time, we were rated as good again, and we continue to aim higher than that, and will continue to do so. I got a slight surprise about quite the number of services that this Trust provides, 48 different clinical services for every age group right across the patch. I confessed earlier that I actually found there was one service I didn't realise we provided until I'd been with the Trust for about a year, so my apologies to them. We work in partnership with other organisations across the NHS, across social care, local authorities, community sector and the voluntary sector. And all these partnerships are incredibly important to us. As we move forward and as we have worked throughout COVID in the first instance, those partnerships have been vital. And moving forward and to deliver the forward view for the NHS, those partnerships will continue to be incredibly important. We will collaborate and integrate with those partners as much as possible to ensure that we're delivering the services that this population needs in the future. Next slide, Mark, please. This is our organisation, and I think, not surprisingly, there's a huge amount of the stuff in here is about staff. We have a staff of approximately 2,000, a wonderful, caring, supportive, they're just amazing staff, who provide fantastic services for the population. And within all that, they are happy to recommend our trust as a good place to work. This year, the staff survey was actually around October, I think, wasn't it? The National Staff Survey was undertaken. It is unusual for a trust to get as high a response rate as we got. We had a response rate of over 70% among our staff. And in all the areas that they rated us, they either rated us as maintained standard or an improved standard, which is tremendous in view of the fact we'd been through a pretty challenging year already when that survey was undertaken. We are ahead of the curve in terms of our moving towards digital working and mobile working, and we benefited hugely from the fact that we were ahead of the curve as we moved into the COVID pandemic, because that was very necessary for that pandemic, to be able to work remotely and work digitally. Digital consultations have taken a whole new role within our services, and very effectively, and Claire will build on that. We're financially stable and financially sound, and we are very, very supportive of our staff, as indicated in the fact that we are 10th highest placed trust in England for promoting the freedom to speak up policy. Very important for staff that they're able to talk to us and talk when they have concerns and feel free and unimpeded to have that conversation. So moving on to our key achievements from the last year. As I said, we retained our rating of good from the CQC. And as I indicated, this has been an incredibly challenging year. So I think I'd like to reflect slightly on some of the challenges of this year. I don't know when, late 2018, early 2019, we were notified that one of our major commissioners was planning to tender a big chunk of our services to go out to competitive tender, and for that we clearly were in a position to do nothing other than bid for that tender. The immediate impact of our commissioner saying they would tender the services was negative on staff, and that's not surprising because it felt like a judgment on them to some extent. A negative impact like that affects morale and can affect the delivery of services to our patients, and that's a serious concern. The work involved in developing the bid for that tender required considerable input of staff time and the recruitment of additional staff temporarily to support that work. Again, that's a cost, and that's public funds that should be spent on patient care. At the end of the day, we didn't win that tender, we lost it. It led to us having to transfer huge numbers of staff to another organisation, and to support those staff, there was again a lot of anxiety, concern expressed by staff who didn't know what the future would hold for them. And it wasn't just the staff who were transferring that were affected. It was also the staff that were being left behind, because we had teams that worked right across the patch and supported in both areas. And so even for them, those teams were uncertain. At the end of the day, we've come through that. We made a decision that we would look to the future and not dwell on the past, that we would be very positive and take positive out of it, and that we would support all our staff in every way we possibly could. I think we are now a stronger organisation. We're financially sound, and that's really important, and we proved that, and David will go into that in more detail. as we go on. We have introduced our new strategy, which introduces our vision and our values and our objectives, and we are strong going forward, and we will take that work forward. So out of adversity perhaps comes lots of good, and I think that's really important. We have retained our top single oversight framework rating with the NHS, with NHS Improvement for the 9th year in a row. We've won a huge number of awards, which Claire will go into more detail about. And as I said, we retained our CQC rating of good. We are a good organisation, and I'm proud to be part of this good organisation. And finally, just looking at our vision, values and objectives, our new strategy, which we introduced in 2019, we introduced with the number of workshops with our staff. The staff have reported that they feel the values feel very real to them. Claire will talk a bit more about that, but I think very important that our staff are signed up to our new strategy and to our vision and our values and our objectives. I'll now hand over to Claire, who will talk through and give an update of the year and a review of the year. Thank you. Claire.
Thank you very much, Linda, and I'm absolutely delighted that you've been able to join us on our first virtual annual general meeting, and I look forward to giving you a brief update on the achievements of the last year, and this will be followed by a short film. So I think, as Linda has reflected, in HCT we have faced a year of unprecedented change. And I think it's fair to say that we felt like that before we faced all of the challenges that we have all just faced in terms of the response to the coronavirus pandemic. And this has been truly a year of transformation in HCT. We welcomed the publication of the NHS long-term plan in early 2019, and we were pleased to see that the importance of the contribution of primary and community services was reflected in the NHS 10-year plan, probably in a way that it never had truly been before. And this actually enabled us to refresh our organisational strategy and reinstigated our intention, which continues our focus on integrated services in partnership with primary care, local authority and our other partners across the integrated care system in Hertfordshire and West Essex. Linda talked about our refreshed vision, values and objectives, and I think it's fair to say that they represent everything our organisation and our staff stand for and care passionately about. And I'll just go on now to highlight some of our achievements, and I've grouped these around our 3 values. So our first value, innovative, and I think, you know, we set an intention probably 2-3 years ago to profile and focus and talk about the innovations that we were making in the trust. And I'm absolutely delighted that last year was our best ever year for awards, and we were winners and finalists for a number of awards. And this is really important for recognition of the contribution that all of the staff here in HCT make to improving services for our patients and users. And in particular, I'm going to highlight the work of our Eastern North Hertfordshire Referral Hub, which was a new concept introduced and which won the 2019 HSJ Award for Community and Primary Care Service Redesign. And the Referral Hub receives over 6,000 calls a month. And the numbers of calls to the Referral Hub actually doubled in June at the height of the pandemic. And this hub actually provides support and advice and manages referrals from both professionals and patients and users. And the judges recognised both the ambition, innovation and the positive impact on patients and health and social care staff. So congratulations to the referral hub and to all of our other services who were either finalists or winners over the course of the last year. Our second value is caring, and it's absolutely struck me during the last year, and particularly over the course of the last 6 months or so, just how important a value of caring is. And staff said very clearly that they wanted to retain the value of caring. When the CQC came in and undertook our inspection, Karen Holland, our lead inspector, said what was impressive was the passion of all staff to deliver good quality care. And we've undertaken work to improve both patient experience and support to our staff over the course of the last year. And I'm really pleased that we have undertaken some improved patient information videos in a number of our services, and also used the NHS England Always Events framework to take forward quality improvements in end-of-life care. And Linda referenced earlier our NHS staff survey, completed at a time of major organisational change and transition, and the improved scores that we saw in 26 areas. And it was one of my personal objectives for the year to increase the amount of inclusion and to promote distributed leadership in the organisation. And thank you to all of the staff who've participated in both our new staff council, our staff side committee and our BAME network. And the BAME network has been particularly important over the course of the last 6 months. And thank you to Tinu Fakoya, who has been supporting our BAME staff in the trust, who have been particularly affected by the pandemic. And our third value is agile. And Linda referenced earlier that there was a huge amount of debate about this value when we were landing on our 3 values earlier in the financial year. And I think people felt quite uncomfortable, to be honest, at the beginning when we talked about the need to be agile. However, little did we know that we were due to face a major pandemic and that we would all need to be more agile, both in and out of work as we live our lives. And I just wanted to highlight a number of key achievements, I think, that reflect our trust value of agile. So we have had a really strong platform of mobile working and utilisation of electronic patient records across our trust. And we were able to build on this platform and introduce innovative electronic solutions, which included use of digital, like Microsoft Teams, as we're having in our meeting today, online consultation and online consent. And for many of us, myself included, we had to be really quick and agile in adopting new technology in order to successfully work. And I think, you know, it's absolute recognition on everyone for embracing that challenge. And it's been really interesting to see the pace and speed of the adoption of new innovations over the course of the last year. And no part of our organisation has been untouched in 1920. And not only have we focused on redesigned and improved clinical services, but we have also had to have an agile response to the loss of about 1/3 of our business in October. And the challenge was to encourage people to work in less traditional and bureaucratic ways, and to undertake a corporate service redesign programme, which with the aim of reducing silo working and building on best practice from the commercial sector support services. And so no part of the organisation has been untouched. And in terms of the coming year and our agile response moving forward, we will continue to take forward the best practice elements as we manage recovery recovery phase following the pandemic. So moving on, just to focus particularly on our response to the pandemic. We have seen both innovative and collaborative service response to support patients, users and all our partners in the system. We've enhanced key services such as prevention of hospital to admission and expedited discharge home from acute hospitals. And a massive thank you at this point to our over 400 staff who were redeployed to support our response to COVID. And most of these staff have now returned to their usual services, but I just want to pay particular recognition to these staff because many of these staff were clinicians who moved into supporting clinical services and working outside of their usual comfort zone. And we saw massive support for these staff from other colleagues, and their contribution has been hugely appreciated. Our immunisation service provided over 25,000 vaccinations for under 5s. We were the only trust in the country to take on and provide a new service which was set up and established at the start of the pandemic to ensure that children under 5 continued to receive their immunisations. And you'll see from the slide that over 35 of our services implemented virtual consultations, with nearly 10,000 consultations held since the end of March, and around 90% of patients and users commenting how much they preferred the digital consultation and that they would be happy to participate in their digital consultations again in the future. We couldn't have achieved everything that we've achieved over the last year without working with our partners. And I'll take this opportunity to extend a huge thank you to all of our partners for working so effectively with us over the course of the last year. We will continue on our journey, taking forward our strategy and working even more closely with our partners as we deliver more integrated services and as we take forward integrated care pathways. And we've worked effectively during the pandemic with our care homes, providing additional infection prevention and control advice and support. And we'll be planning to continue to target support for care homes, recognising the vulnerability of those elderly people and the staff that support them. All organisations face challenges, and I think it's fair to say that our challenges are pretty reflective of those that most NHS providers face. We've worked really hard over the last year to have a proactive recruitment and retention approach and to recognise the changing workforce requirements that we have to increase the skills, clinical skills of our practitioners and to develop competencies. And I think this was demonstrated very clearly to us during the redeployment of a number of our staff in the pandemic, where many of our clinicians were able to learn new skills and competencies to support service delivery. So thank you to staff who were prepared to take on additional skills. And we will be adopting our learning as we go forward into the next year and continue to support our workforce. We work within a tight financial envelope, as do all NHS providers, and we have an absolute commitment to achieve an outstanding CQC rating. And this means that we continue to be focused on high quality performance, which is supported by our quality improvement framework. But we recognise that there is population growth, there is an increase in long-term conditions, and we know that we're facing new demand on services as people are working through the implications of the COVID pandemic. And so we need to be ever focused on delivering high quality services in a way that is both operationally productive and effective and focused on outcomes. And finally, our challenge to deliver our strategy, which we're implementing and focusing on outcomes, whilst managing both the opportunities and risks associated with significant external change as we work across our system, our integrated care system. And I am going to finish with a final slide which describes our exceptional people. And I wanted to take this opportunity to reflect the outstanding contribution of every single member of staff here in Hertfordshire Community Trust. Everybody has taken on new challenges, adapted their working practices, developed new competencies, contributed to the design and implementation of new services. Everybody has supported each other and looked after each other through the challenges, whether they've been personal challenges or work-based challenges. And on behalf of the Trust Board, I would just take this moment for that recognition of our exceptional staff and the enormous contribution that they've played in improving the health and well-being of the people that we serve in Hertfordshire over the course of the last year. And I'm really pleased that we're now going to show a short film. This is a snapshot of some of our services through the eyes of our patients, users and carers. And thank you very much to those who are featured in the films for agreeing to participate. So we'll see a short film now, which will be followed by David Bacon, our Director of Finance. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Claire. Bear with us for a second while we get this film up. Shouldn't take long.
Hello everybody. My name is Shah.
So when you were younger, Shah, did you access any of the children's therapy services? And when you accessed them, did anyone offer you an alternative way to communicate your feelings and your choices and opinions? So Shah, with the Ask Me a Communication book that you've got next to you, what's your opinion on this book and having it in place within therapy settings?
You were on another medication before. What impact were the feet having on your quality of life before we started the
I
tablet?
couldn't get shoes on. I took me off the water tablets that were on and put me on another one. And it was only one day I looked at my feet and I thought, oh, I can see my ankles. And it was in changing my tablets that has made my feet and my legs go down. Oh, they're just wonderful.
Shaz can't brush himself because of his involuntary movements, so he requires therefore a carer to do that for him. And so it was working with his carers and with him to come up with a way that he could manage to cope with his teeth being cleaned. The mouth that he has now, there is no bleeding. His gums are really lovely and pink and healthy, and he smiles with so much confidence now, and it's really wonderful to see.
So it has changed everything I've thought about all hygiene for the better.
I really didn't think he would do it. I really didn't think. And the first time I tried it, I said to him, and all the way around, he got in the car to come home, and all the way I was saying, now remember, Jack, your green card, you've got your green card. If you do this, then you can do that and everything, and you get your green card. And he did it. He kept the seatbelt on the whole way home, and I was like thinking, I don't believe he's done that. And we got in, and he got his green card, and he come and he pinned it on the board, and because it was when he got 5, then he got whatever he needed and everything. And he really looked like he was quite proud of the fact that he'd done it.
You know, I just want to thank Palms and the decision makers there that gave us the help that we had. And thank you.
They went to do the operation on the back, but when they did the operation, they found that the disc had gone right through the spinal cord. So then after that, they said I wouldn't walk.
Gradually, we progressed her walking, and then we gradually progressed her to a with a Zimmer frame. We started off doing some exercises in lying, obviously to try and strengthen the lower limbs, and some standing balance exercises, following the waves in the corridor, and also some step exercises.
So and being without the OTs and the physio, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, when I was discharged from hospital, I suppose I was very weak. That's the main thing. I was breathless, and I coughed. I didn't notice some of the other symptoms until I had been home for a little while. So symptoms like shaky handwriting, you know, really impossible to read it. I lost a couple of stone in weight, was one of the things that actually happened. I've lost about the top 3 notes of my singing scale. When I came out of hospital, my metal knee is much more painful actually going upstairs. I had a catheter, had I? And anyway, I certainly had urinary tract infection, so you know I was peeing a lot in the night. So my hands unsteady, like Parkinson's, but not as bad as that. I had numb sides of the feet.
Well, he was admitted on the 16th of March for exacerbation of his ITP, but was discharged after 4 days because that was okay. And then he deteriorated over the weekend that he came home, went back into critical care on the 22nd. He could hardly walk up the path, but get to the car, and then I drove him there. He was taken in and almost immediately intubated, ventilated and sedated. And he was in critical care for 17 days, and the last week of that he had a tracheostomy rather than the intubation. I think just before he left for the general ward, he was fitted with a speaker valve, and that was the first time I could hear him speak.
I also got a lot of benefit from playing the clarinet, because that is actually an exercise, but it's also an exercise I like to do. I mean, and it works. It improves breathing. This is my 6-part physio exercise list. 15 minutes of exercises at this point, which is about sort of 4 weeks into rehab, if you like. Stair climbing, 2 minutes of stair climbing. Clarinet playing, 20 minutes of clarinet playing. Walking or cycling, an hour walking or an hour and a half cycling. Handwriting, 3 minutes of handwriting, and singing. And that was on the 6th of May. And now I've basically run out of targets, actually, because I think I'm 90% back to where I was. We are going to go on a walking holiday like we did. And our typical walking holiday, we would walk 15 miles up and down, and we need to get back there.
So, good morning everyone, I'm David Bacon, I'm Director of Finance at HCT, and I'm going to take you through the key financial highlights of the 2019-2020 year. If we first look at the timetable of things that were done for the annual accounts, I think the first thing to acknowledge is that whilst the country went into lockdown on 23rd of March, from 24th of March, every single member of the finance team started working remotely at home. That introduced a number of different ways of working, it was immensely challenging for both the finance team and our auditors. And I'm particularly proud of the way that the team have responded to that challenge and have risen to the challenges that threw up. The more eagle-eyed of you will notice that some of the dates in that slide are slightly different to previous years. As part of the response to the COVID situation, the Department of Health did change some of the normal year-end accounts timetables. We submitted our draft accounts on the 27th of April, which was the due date for the draft account submission. Our audit committee and board approved the accounts on the 26th of May, and the work with the auditors was completed so that our auditors' accounts were formally submitted to the Department of Health on the 22nd of June. Normally that last date is towards the end of May, and that was one of the key changes that the Department of Health introduced to recognise the working situation for everyone. If I look then at the financial duties that we have and our performance against those, we met our financial control total. The adjusted financial performance surplus of 1.2 million was met. We utilised 5.8 million of the 6.5 million available around external financing. We made net capital investments of 5.3 million, just 100,000 or so short of the resource limit that had been made available to us. Our payment to suppliers, which is mentioned through the Better Payment Practice Code, improved this year, and we met the target of paying invoices within 95% of invoices within 30 days, and we finished the year with cash in the bank of just under £15 million. Some of the other elements of the financial position for the year are on this next slide. So I've mentioned the 1.2 million surplus with no material errors. The auditors, as part of their work, review a variety of things, but one of those is the valuation of land and buildings, and as part of their report they have drawn to the reader's attention through what's called an emphasis of matter the fact that, along with every other organisation in the country doing accounts at this time of year, there was that level of uncertainty about what was the impact of COVID going to be on property valuations. The auditors have confirmed that we did use the best information available at the time, and that our valuation of the assets at that time was appropriate and was accurate. The auditors issued an unqualified auditor's report on the overall financial statements. They also confirmed that there were no matters to report to the National Audit Office or no matters to identify as in a referral to the Secretary of State. And they also confirmed in an unqualified opinion around value for money, which confirms that our use of public money for the year was both effective and efficient. And then some of the other numbers coming out of the accounts. The Trust now spends approximately £350,000 every day. In the 1920 year, we delivered £5.4 million of saving. We invested over £300,000 into specific staff training, which is over and above the peer support and in-house training that we give staff. Approximately 75% of our spend is on pay. We spent approximately £10 million on temporary staffing across agency, bank and locum. And of that, our agency spend at 5.7 million was both a significant reduction on the 8.6 million we'd spent in this area in 18-19, but also significantly below the ceiling level that NHS Improvement has set us for the year. And in terms of the capital investments, the main components were £2.6 million that we spent on modernising our estate, and approximately £2.4 million that we spent on IT and medical equipment upgrades.
Thank you very much, David. I think some very impressive numbers went in there. For all of us, I think. And I think important to see that we have actually invested quite a bit in our digital, and that was ahead of COVID, and that was probably good investment that has borne fruit throughout the COVID pandemic. Right, we now will move ahead. We have quite a lot of ambition. We want to continue to deliver outstanding services and the best possible outcomes for our communities. We are completely committed to playing our full active role in the developing integrated care partnerships that will be delivering the care for people across Hertfordshire and West Essex for the future. We will lead on the development of the pathways for children and young people and adults as much as is humanly possible, along with our partners. We want to see more joined up services between primary care, community care, secondary care, social care, and as I mentioned earlier, voluntary sector as well, because our voluntary sector are really important partners along with the statutory sectors. And we want to see more care delivered closer to home, which I think is something that most of our communities want too. People prefer to be dealt with as close to home as possible, and that's something we can really support. So that's our big ambition for the future. We probably have another ambition, and it's a sort of sad ambition, because a few weeks ago, Claire Hawkins, our Chief Executive Officer, announced that she was stepping down from her role as Chief Executive. This will happen in the autumn, and we are working now towards recruiting a replacement for Claire. A hard role to follow, I have to say. I think she's got shoes that won't be easy to fit. Claire has been an inspirational leader for this trust over the past 9.5 years. She joined the trust at executive level as our chief nurse and head of quality, or was it, I forgot, yeah, director of quality and chief nurse. Well, sorry, Claire, I get the titles slightly wrong sometimes. A role which she fulfilled brilliantly, and which she was in when I first joined the trust as non-executive director. She then moved on to become the Deputy Chief Executive and then Acting Chief Executive for quite a considerable time. It was over a year, I think, before we were able to finally appoint her substantively as our Chief Executive. As I said, Claire has been an inspirational leader. She is going to leave this trust in a very strong position. We are stronger for having had her as our leader for the last number of years. And yes, we will miss her hugely. There's no doubt about that. But with the strength she's leaving us with, I think we are in a better place. Most importantly, Claire has always been an advocate of delivering high quality services, but also a great advocate of the transformation that is required to take us forward into the future. And because of that focus on transformation, I believe that will help us to deliver our ambitions. Claire is also hugely supportive of personal and professional development, not just for our staff, but beyond our staff. She's a big supporter of nurses generally across the country, and will go on to taking some leadership work nationally around professional development, as I understand it, or certainly that sort of territory, working with our Chief Nursing Officer. It is a sad thing to see Claire go, but we wish her well in the future. She has done us proud for so many years. I think she's done her time and probably does deserve a break, but that doesn't necessarily make us feel any happier. But thank you, Claire, for all you've done for us. Now, I think probably we ought to move on to see if there's any questions. There haven't been huge numbers as far as I'm aware. I did notice one from Eric Beach asking if there's a list of our 48 services anywhere. I see Mark is nodding down the end of the table, and yes, there is a list, and perhaps we will highlight where that list can be found. It's on the website, isn't it? It should be.
Yeah, so it's a mix. So hi, Eric. So the 48 services is the list of services which we are registered to provide with the Care Quality Commission. So it is the list of services which is on our public site, but I will make sure that it is very clear and easy to be found on the intranet for our staff in case anybody needs that list and just wishes to understand a bit more about it. So we will take that action forward. Thank you.
And Claire, I think you had picked up another question that had come in.
Yes, I did. Thank you. We had a question from Renata Blower, which is, will we offer virtual appointments as an option when they're not actually necessary as part of our COVID response? And Renata, I'm really pleased to say, yes, we will. This was part of our strategy anyway, and as I said earlier, we've been able to build on our digital and fast track some of these innovations. So in terms of services for the future and the ways that we choose to provide services, we will be adopting digital first, which means that the first option will always be either a telephone or a virtual consultation where that's feasible for the majority of our services, where that makes sense. So yes, we will be continuing.
Thank you, Claire. Looking at the comments on meeting chat, an awful lot of them are comments rather than questions, but people are asking about mainly I think some of our staff are asking about the availability of the video to show to others and to use within recruitment or within training purposes. So that will be made available, certainly, there's no doubt about that. Do people have any other questions? Because hang on. No, everybody's saying good luck to Claire. Is a lot of it. Thank you very much, John, for that nice comment. Apart from continuing to improve, can I ask whether the trust has, John Hickton, sorry to see it here, Claire is leaving, apart from continuing to improve quality, can I ask whether the trust has an ambition for revenue growth? David, would you like to answer that?
Well, I guess the simple answer to that is yes. I think what we're seeing through the COVID experience is probably a greater recognition and appreciation of the role of community trusts in the health economy. And as part of developing sort of the new look of services, I think our hope, our expectation is that is recognised through the expansion of the services that we provide and the addition of new services that would provide that revenue growth.
Thank you, David. Does anybody else wish to ask a question? You can use the raised hand bit in Teams if you wish, rather than... Oh, how is the Trust positioning itself for the future with POA services and the emergence of ICTs?
So we've got Marion, our Chief Operating Officer, as part of our annual general meeting today. So perhaps Marion could talk a little bit about prevention of admission services and the emergence of ICTs.
She looks ready and willing to do that.
Thank you, Marion.
Happy to do that, Claire, thank you. So our prevention of admission services have been enhanced during the response. We already provided prevention of admission as part of our integrated care teams in East and North Hertfordshire, but we expanded them largely due to the redeployment of staff during COVID, and they've been enormously successful at preventing 88% of the patients who come into that service have been prevented from needing hospital admission, which is an incredibly successful outcome. So we have agreed to continue with an expanded level, obviously not using redeployed staff. We are bringing in temporary staff to fill the gap and continue to enhance those services, and looking to recruit additional staff to continue prevention of admission services in the longer term. But the way we deliver those will be moving forward as an ICP in East and North alongside our integrated care teams, which we already provide in partnership with HPFT for mental health and Hertfordshire County Council for adult care services, and alongside primary care. And we will be looking to integrate that prevention of admission offer with a number of other services which are aiming to do the same thing around stopping people going to hospital whenever that can be avoided. So it's very much an integrated ICP approach, and it's very much in line with the Ageing Well ambitions that are part of the long-term plan.
Thank you, Marion, that's very helpful. David Hollis has asked, how does the reconfiguration of the Hertfordshire CCGs affect HCT?
So on that one, so just so people are aware, I think most people will be aware, but just to make sure everyone's aware, the CCGs are currently going through a process of effectively coming together under the ICS. There will be a formal merger, I think it's sometime in 2021. The commissioning role for the CCGs will be absorbed into the ICS. HCT will continue to provide services across Hertfordshire, and I think what we'll see is that our discussions about services and the delivery of services will probably, over a period of time, move towards discussions with the ICS that will form that umbrella that embraces the roles of the CCGs that are there at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Are there any other questions from anybody? It's all gone quiet. Okay, if there are no more questions from anybody, I'll thank you all for taking part in this meeting and for your commitment to us. I was having a little reflection as we went through and thinking, I wonder, are we now going to have clarinet playing as an essential part of our therapy services in the future? I'm not sure we are, but who knows, it might be a positive. Anyway, I think it's probably time to draw this meeting to a close. Thank you for taking part in it. Thank you to all those who contributed to it, and thank you for our team in the background who have made sure it's happened as our first ever virtual AGM. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.